Welcome to Reddit Aliens. What do you strongly suspect, but have no proof of? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. That a relative is a CIA agent. She was in the Peace Corps, Vietnam era, ever since she's been a world traveler, somehow able to drop her work and go hiking the Spanish version of the Appalachian Trail or otherwise go to exotic locales. Sometimes she came back with injuries. I fell as we were climbing some rocks. Her son is in the agency as an employee, not a spy, and he's married to a CIA translator. She probably is. I believe my grandmother was a serial killer. She was married 7 times, each ending in a sudden death. She died in the 1980s, but everything is still suspicious, and no one seems to know anything. I did find an article about her when she came to the US, where her first husband died defending her after her ex-boyfriend climbed in her window in New York City. I also found evidence of her having been in prison before coming to the US. I work for a call center for the marketplace in the US. There was no interview, barely any training, super high turnover, and super low morale. None of their decisions make sense. The entire operation almost feels like it's trying to work as poorly as possible, so everyone hates it. I think my local newspaper and news stations make up fake Facebook profiles to post inflammatory statements in the comment sections of their news releases. There are frequent commenters whose profiles have a basic name, no friends, random intonation, friends, basic profile information, and only one profile picture, who will make some outlandish comment that starts a war. It's called a bot. That a lot of businesses in my hometown are just money laundering operations. 25 nail salons in a town of 70,000, 3,000 square foot DVD rental shop in the best block of downtown where commercial rents are very high, dozens of $10 barbershops sitting empty all day but remaining open, red flags all around. There's one company in a town local to me who board up windows. Nobody else in the area seems to do it. Every single window, door, abandoned shop, all done by this one company. They've got a ridiculous sized HQ and have put a decent amount of money toward fixing up other buildings in the area. So I've got a theory. They're the ones doing the damage or paying people to do it, and then obviously getting the job of fixing it up as they're really well known in the area. Despite having no proof of this, I am 100% confident I'm onto them. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time something like this happened in the world or our country, so yeah, makes perfect sense to me. It's job security. That my grandmother had a child before she married my grandfather. When my grandparents met and started dating, my grandma was only 13. My grandpa was 20. They married when she was 17 and he was 24, right after he came back from serving in World War II. That was about as much of the story as anyone in my family ever knew. They'd been dating, then he went overseas, and she wrote to him while he was gone. When he got back, they got married. A few years after my grandma died, my grandfather suddenly mentioned that they'd actually been broken up for a while before she started writing to him. After they'd dated for about a year, he went to pick her up at her house one day, only to find she wasn't home. Her parents informed him that she'd left to live with some cousins a few hours away, and she'd be gone for about a year. He got upset that she hadn't told him about this in advance and ended the relationship. When another year had passed and she returned home to her parents, she started writing him overseas and apologized, and they started dating again. My grandpa told this story very blandly and seemed to believe that the situation was what it said on the tin. But of course, in the 1940s to 60s, it was quite common for teenage girls to go live with relatives for a year as code for having an out-of-wedlock pregnancy. My grandpa would never have admitted if they'd been having sex, but I'm betting they were. She got pregnant, and she was sent off somewhere to have the baby. I've done commercial DNA testing, so I'm on the lookout for someone to turn up as a sibling to match my mom someday. The only other explanation for my grandma suddenly leaving town would be if her parents didn't approve of her relationship with my grandpa. But from everything I know of them, they were perfectly fine with their 13-year-old daughter dating a guy in his 20s. That some Canadian guy who owns an antique shop that I bought a camera from in April recognized me. He acted flustered when I came in, and I came back the next day to make my purchase. He sold me the camera for what I thought was a reasonable price and threw in an owner's manual in near perfect condition. A quick Google search reveals that it's an extremely rare camera that was only produced for 2 years. 1 out of 1,000 still in existence are operational, and 1 out of every 1,000 working ones still has a certain part. Mine does. This guy's whole shop was based around antique cameras, and my dad talked shop with him for a while, and he even explained to me how to find film or modify some for my camera. He knew what he was selling me and lost a lot of money on the transaction. I even got it appraised to confirm my suspicions about what it was. I believe that Apple never actually intended for anyone to buy their $999 monitor stand. It was just an excuse so they could invalidate all warranty claims from the Pro monitor. We can't approve your claim due to the use of an improper third-party equipment. That my oldest brother is actually my biological father. It just makes sense. No sense to me otherwise. I have a butt chin and no one else in my family does. This older brother is an alcoholic, drug addict, and just a big mess all around. He brought different women to my parents' house every day, and we would hear them F. It makes no sense to me that he came out of that with 0 children. Makes less sense since he's around 20 years older than me, which means my parents would have had me at a dangerously, for my mom, old age. I know it's not impossible, but it just makes a lot more sense this way. Plus, my parents always covered up for his wrongdoings, so it honestly wouldn't surprise me. I once asked my mom, and she got visibly upset. Didn't even ask outright. I just said I had a dream that they told me my brother was really my father. She got super mad and refused to even discuss or acknowledge my dream. Weird as hell. I would still consider my mom my mom. Wouldn't consider my brother my dad if he were, because he's an ass. It's just something I think is highly probable. That my ex-wife's boyfriend hurts my boys. They used to tell me it happened, but I never had proof. Then saw Mark one day, and they said it was cause of the boyfriend, and she explained it away. All of these times, I'd call CPS and nothing came of it. One time, my boy told CPS that when he talks bad about the boyfriend, mom hits him, but still nothing happened. After that point, they stopped telling me things, which in my opinion means that they were just afraid of being hit by mom for telling me things about the boyfriend. That my abusive stepfather went to jail, not exile, for 8 years when I was a teen, and that for a few years prior we were actually running from the law, not hiding from the government because of his activism. This suddenly dawned on me about a month ago, more than a decade later, kind of like how it suddenly clicks that the dog didn't go to a farm. Prince Charles will never sit on the throne. I believe he made a deal with Queen Elizabeth that in exchange for being allowed to marry Camilla, he gave up his right to sit on the throne. Prince William will sit on the throne when Elizabeth dies.
Well, considering that she's probably immortal, it's a good deal for him. I mean, if you want to do the whole marriage thing again.
Suspect my physically and mentally abusive ex-husband was planning on offing me during our separation divorce. He got a $75,000 life insurance policy on me during our separation. Found out 2 years after our divorce when he had overpaid the policy and the insurance sent me a refund check. Mistake on their part. During our separation, he had invited me to join his family vacation in Grand Canyon. I said no. He invited me to the mountains that same summer to try to be a family again. I said no. Then he invited me to Mexico for reconciliation. Again, no. I said no because the gut feeling I had, and my mom told me not to. She had 3 dreams in a row that my soon-to-be ex-husband would tell her I was dead. I have no proof, just the insurance policy and my mom's dream. 2 years after the divorce, he canceled the policy. I didn't know you could get insurance on someone without them knowing. Businesses do it. Bigfoot is actually a cultural memory from humans who migrated from Asia, and that's where there are stories about Yeti and Sasquatch. The actual creature, though, died out tens of thousands of years ago. 35 to 40 foot sharks exist. They have the whole ocean to hide in, which we are rubbish at exploring, and they have learned to avoid contact with humans. They come close to land occasionally to hunt with food is scarce, then go back to the deep ocean. There is some evidence out there to support this theory, but it's all sketchy as F. There is a group collecting illicit and immoral activities committed by people online who think they are protected by anonymity. This information will later be accessible for anyone who is looking for reasons to out someone from a position of power or authority. That promotion you want in 20 years? Out comes that quasi-drunk, quasi-racist Twitter post from 2015 sent anonymously to HR. Promotion denied. Your rival mysteriously gets it instead. As that post would qualify as public information, it's unprotected from libel or defamatory charges. This could become a seriously large-scale business, worked by algorithms and an AI.
Yeah, the group you're talking about are the intelligence agencies of the world. So, totally.
Only about 10% of lottery winners actually win those huge Powerballs. Of course, someone real has to win sometimes. Can't have no winners or people would get suspicious. But honestly, who would know if there was no real winner? Since the chances are so small, nobody gets suspicious if their ticket doesn't win. Basically free money for the state to use. Not to mention the states that allow you to remain anonymous. That Alzheimer's disease is caused by a long series of small brain infections that are brought about by a leaky blood-brain barrier. That the plaques that form in the brain are a result of these relatively minor infections. Something then crosses which would normally be blocked out, causes a malinformed tau protein, and the tangles start from which causes the neurological degradation. It would explain why people can have plaques but no symptoms, why it predominantly affects older people, why busting the plaques has seemingly no effect on the progression of the disease in humans, and why 30 years and billions of dollars of research has essentially gotten us nowhere. But I am an AD, nor am I a medical researcher, so I can't really speak to the veracity of my claims.